27th of September, and this is a regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners.
Pat,
thank you this morning.
Pat, if you can
Yes.
hold off for what, Pat, Commissioner Farr?
That's right. I forgot to give Diana a
I have not-
30-second warning.
I
30-second
have not
warning,
started
Diana.
Thank you. I have not started the webinar. 1 sec. There you go. You are live.
Thank you. From the top. Good morning. Welcome to Harris Hall. This is September 22nd, and this is a regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. Ms. Mokhaisi, today we have 3 different public hearings. The first one will be at the start of the meeting on the supplemental budget. The second one will be our regular public comments, and the third will be on the ordinance this afternoon. I'm going to tell you right up front that if people, typically we ask people to only speak at one of the public hearings. A little bit lenient on that. If somebody shows up and they talk twice, I probably will not say no. So just as a headline on that. And we'll go directly into the agenda. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
No.
Okay, from the board, I see none. We'll move directly into item 2, which is a public hearing, an order and resolution 2209-2701 in the matter of adopting the fiscal year 22-23 supplemental budget number 1, making, reducing, and transferring appropriations. And Ms. Mokhaisi, today, our budget and financial planning manager, Christine Moody, is with you, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Christine. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Farr, Commissioners. So as noted, this is the first supplemental budget of this fiscal year. It is predominantly just changing revenue and expenses that we know since we adopted. And some of those adoption entries were entered back when budget started back in February. So just more information known, the majority of it being grants within our Health and Human Services funds. There are 9.8 FTE being added overall across the fund. I do need to note that there was a new memo and order posted late last night. We had a change to the capital fund. So that changed not the total budget number, but it changed the order in one section where it talks about Fund 435, and it changed the financial section of the memo. It was just a movement of money out of expenditure authority into reserves where it should have been put to begin with. So that correction was made.
Thank you, Ms. Moody. Any questions from the board? None, then I'll hearing. Anyone wish to speak to the supplemental budget? I see no one signed up and no one speaking. Any hands? I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
Chair, I'll move adoption of order and resolution in the matter of sorry, I don't have my proper words in front of me. In the matter of adopting.
Commissioner Farr?
Yes.
Commissioner Farr?
Yes.
And Vice Chair Trieger, this is a public hearing. We do need to open the public hearing and see if we have anyone online for the public hearing also.
I didn't check online. So I'll reopen the public hearing. Ms. Moody, is anyone online to deliver testimony regarding the public hearing for the supplemental budget?
I will check that right now, Chair Farr. If you have registered for public comment and you wish to speak on this item, which is the supplemental budget, please raise your hand and I will call on you to testify. I saw a hand just go down. So with that, I do not have online attendees for this public hearing either. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. And with that, I'll ask again, anyone in Harris Hall wish to provide testimony on the supplemental budget? Seeing no one, I will actually really truly close the public hearing. Vice Chair.
Chair, I move approval of the order and resolution adopting the fiscal year 22-23 supplemental budget number 1, making, reducing, and transferring.
What happened? Oh, honey, what happened?
Someone who is online, thank you for being here and thank you for the lovely sounds, but can you mute your mic? I do hear a child. Thank you.
I'll second.
Moved by Vice Chair Trieger and seconded by Commissioner Buck. We have order and resolution 2209-2701. Discussion to the motion. I'm seeing none. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Moody. Mr. Mokhaisi, do we have any emergency business to attend to?
Don't. No.
None? Anything from the board? Seeing none, we'll move directly along to public comments. Today we'll entertain public comments as we do every regular meeting. We will have public comments from people who are in Harris Hall and also from people who are online. We'll listen to the testimony from people in Harris Hall first, followed by Ms. Jones managing the queue for people online. And then I'll ask again at the end of that if anyone else in Harris Hall wishes to speak. So with that, you'll have 3 minutes. Keep an eye on that board right there. That's your clock. You'll not receive any warnings when you're approaching the 3 minutes. So please pay attention and conclude right at 3 minutes. At 3 minutes, the mic is going to be silenced and we'll move along to the next speaker. So with that, I'm going to call on people one at a time. Step to the mic, provide you 3 minutes of testimony, and give us your name and your location. First, we have Greg James, who will be followed by Lisa Johnson. Mr. James.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Greg James, and I'm speaking to you today as a multi-generational Springfield community member. Most of you probably know me as a Parks and Rec guy, but as an elected official, I've championed economic development for many years, serving on the regional Cascades West Economic Development Board, which our very own Commissioner Buck chairs. With the discussion of an increase in the tourism lodging tax, I wanted to share with you the progress the Springfield Community Development Corporation has made on the research, design, and branding of a multi-purpose indoor facility with a hydraulic bank track. We believe a thoughtfully located, right-sized indoor multi-purpose venue welcoming residents and visitors alike will positively transform our community through long-term economic gains and healthier, more engaged residents. Progress on the proposed project includes in 2019, leaders and board members traveled to Virginia to tour the then recently constructed indoor track at Liberty University. The original feasibility study was paid for by Lane County. Sports Facility Advisory, a national leader in sports facility management, provided an updated pro forma analysis and feasibility report. User groups such as volleyball, pickleball, basketball, gymnastics, and others were surveyed. We've worked with a local architecture firm to develop renderings of an indoor multi-use facility with a hydraulic bank track and obtained a draft construction budget from a local construction company based on the plans provided by Liberty University. We've continuously worked with our local government partners, including ex officio board members, Commission Chair Farr and Commissioner Burney. And we've created branding and a website located at springfieldhouseoftrack.com in cooperation with a local branding firm. As a community member and SCDC board member, I support the use of TLT funds for projects that will solve the winter demand. I also must support a thoughtful approach when using any project of this magnitude, citing a project of this magnitude. For locating an indoor multi-use facility, the transfer site would be perfect because it's visible from I-5 and Glenwood would become a central hub as a shared metro economic development, and it would be visible as Tracktown USA, as we all know we are, heralding our unique and powerful position as a nation's year-round mecca for athletics. I'd like to thank you for your service and request that you consider investing any TLT into an indoor sports facility, as well as considering all county sites for such a project. And I would just say I am not available this afternoon to give comment during the public hearing, so I thought I'd come this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James. Next speaker is Lisa Johnson, who will be followed by Warren Beer. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Lisa Johnson. I'm a Eugene resident, and I'm here to speak in favor of the M's moving to the fairgrounds. I'd like to share just a quick story about how much they mean to us. A few weeks ago, I went to an M's game, sat basically behind home plate, and in front of me was a boy and his parents. And it made my heart warm because it reminded me of when my son played Little League. It was more than 15 years ago when my son's team had the honor of taking the field with the M's for the playing of the national anthem. My son was assigned to the center fielder, and this 22-year-old rookie started to run out across the diamond with my son, and I saw him turn back with a huge smile on his face. And he gave my son a big high five, made sure they ran the same speed, laughed with him. And this may sound like a small thing, but my son was really struggling at that time. And it was a dark time for our entire family. The next thing you know, there's a signed M shirt over the bunk bed next to a red wooden game bat with handprints still visible in the pine tar, and photos personally inscribed with encouraging words. That moment on the field became 3 years of correspondence as that player moved through the league. It also involved a few more baseball bats in the mail. He never became a superstar, but the impact of that warm, wonderful human being on our world was immense. It is my fervent hope that the boy sitting in front of me the other day and his parents and many more to follow have that same chance to meet such an inspiring player. I talked with that family. I couldn't tell you their politics, their religion, their stance on vaccines. For those few suspended hours, we set aside everything else and enjoyed cheering our team to a win. I could tell you that Dad played mostly first base because his bat was stronger than his arm, and that Mom helped coach the Little League team, and that their son was holding a giant soft pretzel and not a video game controller. We need this community space where neighbors can meet, newcomers can become regulars, and families can do something as a family. I can't wait to walk to the fairgrounds for an Emeralds baseball game. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Next speaker is Warren Beer, who will be followed by Catherine Beer.
Hi, my name is Warren Beer, and I live in Eugene. And I want you to please authorize the construction of the multi-use stadium for baseball, concerts, and other community events at the Lane County Fairgrounds. As the pandemic ends, we must look for opportunities to rebuild relationships across our diverse community. A year-round entertainment center, including the Emeralds, would serve as a venue for youth baseball and softball, tournaments, concerts, meetings, and other events that draw locals and bring people together. A new 21st century multi-use venue would attract greater numbers of people from across the Eugene-Springfield area, help overcome differences and encourage dialogue, and thereby help to break down prejudice, stereotypes, cultural differences, intolerance, and discrimination. When people meet face to face, they often find interests, ideas, and values they have in common. I've been to probably 20 events at PK Park this last year to be a part of the Eugene Emeralds. And as you watch people come in, they wear hats and shirts that identify their interests, either rock bands or places they visited or political or religious interests. They all identify themselves through the clothing that they wear, but they all come there together to be together and to share in the value of community enthusiasm and support for our local baseball team. A new stadium and entertainment venue can provide Lane County with a community space in which local teams of athletic heroes represent the community in competition, advancing our community's image and brand, demonstrating our civic pride. It would provide future opportunities for acclamation and recognition for all aspects of our community's accomplishments, all aspects, and not just those of the University of Oregon. Participating in large community events inspires young men and women to think about what they want to make of their lives and helps develop the next generation of athletes, dreamers, and leaders. If you think about all of the creative people that this community has spawned, you have David Bischoff, who was one of the main writers for Star Trek: The Next Generation here in Eugene, Dan Carlin, a podcaster, and Richard Brodigan, the famous author, and others. We want to encourage those minds. Please help increase the opportunity to bring more people, to inspire their creativity, to break down the barriers in our community and advance an ambitious future. And also, thank you so much for doing what you do in serving our community.
Thank you, Mr. Beers. Our next speaker is Catherine Beers. And before you step to the mic, Ms. Beers, I'll ask anybody who's online, preparing to prepare testimony, can you please silence your microphones? We are getting a little bit of background noise, which is interfering with the proceedings here at Harris Hall. So please silence your microphones at home. Next speaker is Catherine Beer, who'll be followed by Vidal T. Francis.
Hello, I'm a little bit nervous because I'm not used to talking in public, except pointing out exits as the flight attendant. Lisa, I love what Lisa said. I'm new to Eugene. I moved up here 2 years ago to take care of my mom with Alzheimer's, but I used to come visit. And my grandpa Babb and Bert Babb would take us to the baseball games. And it really meant a lot, as Lisa said, as children watching games and learning about Oregon. But right now, I would really like the M's to be downtown. As a traveler, I'd have layovers in St. Louis, Cincinnati with the ballparks there. I just like the energy of everybody. I like the energy of people, and I want the city to have something besides just the Oregon Ducks, which I love. I've been a Ducks fan for a long time, but I want more. I want concerts. I want to revitalize certain areas. I want college students to stay here. I want jobs here. This is where I choose to live now, and I want that vibrancy. Thank you for your time, and thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beers. Our next speaker is Vidal T. Francis. Mr. Francis, thank you for being here. We'll hear from you a little later on also, but please step to the mic. You'll have 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Who'll be followed by Dennis Herbert.
Thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak here. I actually went a little ahead of myself, not realizing that the sign-up sheet was actually to speak. But nevertheless, thank you again for having me here. My name is Vidal Francis. I'm with the Oregon Department of Transportation. And as you probably already know, that Franny Brindle, who was the area manager for ODOT, she's retired since coming in August, actually this past August 1st, I started to take over that role, that function for her. And I'm going to save much of my speech for later. So hopefully when I get back up, I'll be able to present more to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. The next speaker is Dennis Hebert, who is the last speaker signed up in Harris Hall. Mr. Hebert.
Good morning. Commissioner Trieger is my commissioner. Thank you all very much for being here. My name is Dennis Hebert. I am one of the co-founders of the Save Civic Stadium organization and currently the president of Friends of Civic Stadium. And we're hoping maybe that we might have yet another new Civic Stadium around. Anyway, I'd just like to give you some thoughts that I've had. There seems to be a misperception amongst some of the community that the proposed stadium at the fairgrounds will be for baseball only. Lots of people that come talk to me kind of have this one-track mind that is just going to be for the M's. Well, it's my understanding from what I've heard at your meetings that the stadium will be multi-use. That is for events other than baseball. The Eugene Emeralds will only use it for approximately 60 games a year, which leaves about 300 days for other events to take place at the facility. I would expect that the Lane County Fairgrounds marketing manager can come up with a lot of other events to host at this facility, especially with the revitalization of the site on the much underutilized space in the center of town and in a neighborhood that is in much need for economic boost. I think the main thing that most people don't seem to look at in this proposal for the 2% increase in the transient room tax is that it is for the revitalization of something that is instilled into the history of the community, the Lane County Fairgrounds. The need to showcase our agriculture, our industries, our arts, our crafts, and yes, we do have a culture here in Eugene. And I'm hoping that in these plans, there is room for a larger Lane County History Museum. It is in dire need of additional space for artifacts and exhibits to show the great history that has happened here. In the grand scheme of things, for years to come, the money that will be paid forward in this investment into the community will be much more than the initial venture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hebert. Mr. Hebert was the last person to sign up in Harris Hall. At this point, I'm going to turn over the queue to Ms. Jones, who will handle the online queue. Ms. Jones, do we have anyone signed up to speak online?
Thank you, Chair Farr. Yes, we do. And at this time, if you have signed up to speak during public comment, please raise your virtual hand and I will call you in the order that the hands are going up. Our speaker will be David Eigel, followed by Chris McAllister. Mr. Eigel, I will unmute your microphone and you may begin your public comment. I do show you are muted. There you go.
I delayed my public campaign to stop the misrepresentation of fraud that is going on at the Lane County History Museum. This is a collection of lies being used to smear the reputations of the resident white Protestants of the 1920s. I delayed my public information campaign because I was misled by Ms. Ye, the manager, that I should review the history with the historian, Ms. Arand. I conduct serious research that supports my assertions. My assertions are based on objective research, not preconceived bigotry. I presented documented information that many of the statements presented in the Racing to Change exhibit were false. After months of delay, Arand and Ms. Ye are now attempting to hide under the banner of, oh gosh, we're just too busy to deal with this. Of the many important misrepresentation I've documented, they have been able to challenge even one. The museum engages in both administrative and academic fraud. The last annual meeting of the Lane County Historical Society was conducted on Zoom. I was unlawfully removed from the meeting by Bob Hart. The tape of this meeting has been falsified by deleting the portion of the meeting that includes the questions that I asked. This falsified tape is now being exhibited on YouTube. My questions were quite proper. In chat, I expressed my concern over the misrepresentation of the 1920s Oregon KKK in general and the false statement that Professor Dunn was the leader of the local KKK. I then repeatedly objected to the fact that my questions were ignored. Mr. Hart controlled Zoom. After my questions were ignored, I offered in chat to provide copies of my copyrighted article to anyone who requested it. Mr. Hart soon removed me from the meeting. Mr. Hart was preparing to retire soon. His actions were intended to prevent the membership from learning of his misconduct and the authentic history of the 1920s, not to prevent any improper conduct on my part. The fiction of Dunn leading the Klan was unknown until it was first invented and published by Eckhart Tolle in 1992. I have more than documented that the Dunn Report narrative is farce, not history. I have offered a $25,000 prize for the successful defense of this report. There have been no takers. The public and the members of the Lane County Historical Society are entitled to know what's going on. I request that the county commission insist that the entire Historical Society board be informed of this misconduct, as well as the membership of the Historical Society. The Historical Society membership cannot exercise control over the paid employees that the paid employees are permitted to engage in and conceal fraudulent activities. I will be available to any of the commissioners to review the Racing to Change exhibit. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Our next speaker is Chris McAllister, followed by Carrie Westland. Mr. McAllister, I will unmute your microphone and you may begin your public comment.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the commission. My name is Chris McAllister, and I am proudly represented by Joe Burney in Springfield, District 2. I come before you with a note of sadness and a request for hope. Last night, Cahoots was down for an entire shift. That meant there was no mental health, behavioral health support for an entire county because our 3 ERs were all in code red, which meant there was over 15 people in every ER waiting room. There were no beds for mental health supports. And so as our providers in the community who are holding camps, who are engaging people in crisis, there was no one to call in the entire county. We were thanked for being who we are and helping support people staying in place, but we need to do something better. And so I wanted to just share, we need to expand either the network agreements to where if there are down vans in another community, that they can be dispatched if there's a prioritized need. That we look at investing in outreach services that go after 5 p.m. Monday through Friday and exist in some capacity on the weekends. Our people cannot handle mental health treatment through the ER. We have a wonderful investment in our forensic investigation team out of behavioral health. Let's find ways to get people involved and supporting there. Our people are traumatized and we need to be able to have help to keep them in safe places so that business can thrive and that people can survive. And so that leads me to the transit tax. As we look at investing in new projects, we need to make sure that we are not forgetting how we solve problems in our hardest times. Our county uses hotel rooms as a means of shelter for some of our hardest to help and at some of our worst times. Please acknowledge that when we do that, we as nonprofits have to pay extra taxes to help people, to help bring in extra taxes to our people. So it's a reverse game that's put on the providers who are doing the hardest work with the least amount of supports. I'm honored to serve alongside the professionals at Lane County, at the cities of Springfield, Eugene, Cottage Grove, Oak Ridge, and the greater East Lane County. We can do more, but we can't do more without your guys' support. And so I'm honored to talk with y'all. I ask that you look into what we can do to make mental health and crisis intervention a reality for the people who have been traumatized and are on the streets because of no fault of their own. We all have choices. Some people are asking for help. So with that in mind, I ask that we just keep on engaging, keep supporting, and keep being part of a greater Lane County response. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Our next speaker is Carrie Westland, followed by Ron Moore. Carrie, I will unmute your microphone and you may begin your public testimony. Carrie, I show yourself muted. Carrie, I don't know if you can hear me, but your microphone is muted on your end. Okay, I'm going to move on to Ron Moore and come back to Carrie next. At this time, I will unmute Ron Moore's microphone, and Mr. Moore, you may begin your testimony.
Thank you, Board of Commissioners. I appreciate your time this morning. I have submitted written testimony concerning increase in the TLT, and hopefully you'll have a chance to have either read that or read it before taking a vote on this matter. I am unavailable for the public commentary later on, and since you can read my comments, I will make my remarks here brief and let you read the entire comment on your own. I just want to say that a vote against increasing the transient lodging tax is not a vote against a multi-purpose stadium, nor is it a vote against building an indoor track facility. Both of these would probably be wonderful additions to the city of Eugene. However, since the M's already play in a stadium and in Eugene, their additional impact on TLT revenues would be minimal, even in a new stadium, and a new indoor track facility may bring in many events, which will probably bring in mostly local traffic, which will not stay overnight as guests in local hotels, thereby not increasing future TLT as well. Therefore, we don't see any need at this time to increase the TLT, and would appreciate you considering the fact that what is the TLT actually going to do in terms of real future growth in the guest of hotel lodging, which is the only place that TLT comes from. We operate 2 small hotels on the Oregon coast in the city of Florence, and would be impacted by this, and would hope that you would consider that a vote against the TLT is not a vote against either of the 2 wonderful projects which the community seems to support, and thereby should be able to support it financially as well in terms of taxes or revenue adjustments as they come to visit events in these facilities, or as they participate in indoor track events or other events that may occur in either of these facilities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your public comment. At this time, I will try returning to Carrie Westland. Carrie, it looks like your mic is unmuted, so I will restart your timer and you may begin your public comment.
Thank you. Chair Farr and Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to give public testimony. My name is Carrie Westland. I'm employed as President and CEO of Travel Lane County, a position I began in late 1996. This was a few years after Lane County and the hotel industry partnered to raise lodging tax by 2 points to fund destination marketing countywide and reestablish the Eugene Springfield Convention and Visitors Bureau as the Convention and Visitors Association of Lane County, Oregon, CVALCO. Our bylaws were redrafted to ensure geographic and broad community representation. From prior to my arrival to today, CVALCO, now Travel Lane County, has consistently communicated our community's need for convention and sports facilities to draw more visitors in winter. As new resources become available after all these years, Travel Lane County's goal is to inform your decision-making and help ensure you and the public that we all understand the economic returns of investing TLT in facilities that attract visitor spending in the winter and shoulder seasons. We've heard from you that a demonstration of interest by the public in indoor multi-use sports space is important. We've also heard that an understanding of the cost, economic impacts, feasibility, and operations are needed. To those ends, we are currently working to provide the most current updates possible, and we'll have data on economic returns and operating pro forma to you within 3 to 4 weeks relative to an indoor multi-use sports facility. This kind of facility has long been envisioned and informally discussed for many years for the Lane Event Center campus as well as in Glenwood. The updated reports we are investing in will inform all of us and be beneficial to Lane County. There is a lot of emotion and advocacy underway, and as you make decisions on raising TLT and allocating it, you are under a very bright spotlight and an avalanche of input. It is important that your investment decisions are well informed. We encourage you to take the time necessary to feel confident in the long-term decisions you must make. We know there is a sense of urgency, but the imperative of making sound and well-informed investment decisions should, in our opinion, be your highest priority as a board. We support you in gathering as much information as possible from every source possible and remain hopeful that the projected returns generated from an indoor facility will be compelling. We would like to see winter visitor demand and the indoor facility prioritized, and both big projects under discussion come to life in a coordinated and collaborative way on the Fairgrounds campus. This is a very exciting time. Thank you for your important work in determining our collective future.
Thank you for your public comment. Our next speaker is Harry Sanger. Mr. Sanger, I will unmute your microphone and you may begin your public comment.
Good morning, Lane County Board of County Commissioners. I'm really glad to have the ability to support something today. Typically, the only positive actions are part of just this crazy national progressive agenda, and I really appreciate that we're looking at doing something for the community and bringing baseball back to Eugene. You know, I grew up with Civic Stadium as a mainstay in my childhood, and there's an impact to going to baseball games in town that just can't be matched by a PK Park or a facility on the outskirts. So I'll just keep it short and sweet. I support the idea of a stadium at the fairgrounds. Not sure a new tax is the best way to go about it, but I appreciate the work that you're putting into this today. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comments. At this time, Chair Farr, I do not have anyone else signed up for public comment, so I will return the meeting to you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones, for handling the queue, and thank you to the speakers who showed up online. I'll turn to the audience in Harris Hall. Anybody else wish to take this time to testify? Please step forward. Ms. Mickelson, step forward and state your name.
Thank you, Chair Farr, Board of County Commissioners, and Springfield, my Commissioner, Joe Burney. Vonnie Mickelson, I'm the President and CEO of the Springfield Area Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here to comment on the best and highest use of any new increase in the lodging tax. The Springfield Area Chamber stands with our Springfield and Eugene hospitality, tourism, and recreation partners who view the best and highest use of new lodging tax revenues as that which grows winter and shoulder season demand and regional economic activity. A multi-use indoor track sports and events facility is a project that would achieve that outcome, stabilizing year-round economic demand while also fulfilling an unmet demand for indoor sports, events, and tournament facilities. We are very familiar with such a project, having supported and worked for years to analyze an indoor multi-use facility in Glenwood that would catalyze regional, community, and economic benefits. We have built a strong destination economy in Lane County. However, as local hospitality and sports and recreation community leaders point out, we have yet to solve for longstanding structural problems. An unmet need for facilities that accommodate local demand for sports gathering, meetings, conventions, and events. An economically vulnerable restaurant, retail, recreation, and lodging community during shoulder and winter months, and an opportunity cost associated with any further delay in solving for these with new lodging tax revenues. You have an opportunity to solve for these. A targeted investment of tourism-driven tax dollars will correct and stabilize our economy during winter and shoulder seasons, bolstering our small business economy that relies on visitor spending. Our local lodging industry seeks to provide stable, year-round jobs and income to their employees. Our local restaurant, retail, and recreation businesses rely on local and visitor spending to keep their doors open. Our city governments rely on lodging tax-based growth and stabilization to bolster resources that in turn drive economic opportunity and community benefit. To business and community partners invested in our families and our communities, your careful attention to the economic returns on investment, as well as a thoughtfully located facility serving the broadest of constituencies across the region matters. Thank you for committing to a deliberative, transparent, and careful inquiry in the matter. And thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Ms. Mickelson. Anyone else in Harris Hall wishing to provide testimony? I see none. Then I'll close the public comment and move along to item 5, which is Commissioner's response to public comments and or other issues and remonstrances. Before I call in commissioners, 2 things really quickly. You know, we deal with a lot of things as a Board of County Commissioners. Some things are happy, some things are questionable, some things there's no happiness, period. But if you look around, everybody right now, look around through that back window and you'll see the year-round, all-weather, multi-purpose Lane County Farmers Market. Who's not happy about that? Thank you. Then I'll turn it over to the Board of Commissioners for comments or remonstrances. Once again, I'll warn you that I don't have to warn you. Commissioner Buck.
I appreciate everybody who's commented here in person as well as online. A lot of it was regarding what we're going to be talking about this afternoon. So I'm going to leave that conversation for this afternoon when we talk about TLT taxes later on. But I would like to take a moment just to give some wildfire updates.
Thank you.
Last week, there were legislative days in Salem, and I was invited to speak to the House Interim Committee on Wildfire Recovery. The focus of the panel was on housing, and I was joined by Commissioners Katie Jacobson of Leakin County and Daniel Bethel of Marion County. Our staff has evolved a list of projects that remain to be completed upriver. Some are funded, some are partially funded, some do not have any funding known at this time. We believe there is close to $50 million of investment needed for us to feel like we've actually attained recovery or some semblance of recovery in this community. Oregon Housing and Community Services holds about $600 million in federal funding that is key to our success in rebuilding upriver. During the testimony, I characterized our relationship with OHCS as struggling to find alignment. They have offered some resources for recovery, but thus far totaling just under $13 million, which I continue to believe is well under what we need for recovery and well short of what the state and federal government intended for us to receive in recovery. The good news is that we continue to talk with Oregon Housing and Community Services, and the chair of the Wildfire Committee has asked for more regular monthly reports from OHCS to the committee itself. And I'll just keep you posted as I learn more, and just know that Lane County is committed to engaging with OHCS on trying to get those resources together. So that's my update on wildfire from the legislative front. On another front, I'm going to hand each of the commissioners a letter that was sent to us from the Pleasant Hill and Goshen Fire Department, who is trying to work on that currently they work together, but they're two separate fire departments and they would like to become one. And there may be some action that the board itself can take in order to help facilitate that. But in order to review that, it will take more than 15 minutes of our staff's time. It shouldn't take an extensive amount of time, but it will take more than 15 minutes. So I'll be asking later in the afternoon or whenever we get to commissioner's business for a request to see if we can get head nods for the extra time that they might need in order to get their two departments into one.
Thank you, Commissioner Buck. And just a note, we've been in contact with the OHS director, Dr. Andrea Bell, and
Yes.
not gotten particularly favorable responses.
Yes, that was noted and quoted in my comments to them at the wildfire committee on Friday afternoon.
Thank you, Commissioner. Further remonstrances? Vice Chair Krieger, excuse me.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. I'll be brief because as Commissioner Buck said, I think the sort of meatiest item that we're looking at this week is the transient lodging tax and car rental tax increase. So I'll have comments about that later. What I will say about it at this point is that is the item. It's not connected to necessarily a specific project or even location. So we'll be focusing our attention on that. And to that, I want to thank all the speakers who came out this morning, all the topics that were covered, as well as emails that are sent. I do my best to read every one of them in advance of the meeting since it is public comment for this meeting. So thank you for being an engaged community. And in the interest of time, I'll let I understand Commissioner Farr is going to make some comment on a meeting he and I were part of yesterday. And so I'll just close for today by just wishing everyone a Shana Tova, Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Krieger. Further remonstrances? Commissioner Bernie.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's nice to be here, no matter what side of what issue people happen to be on. There were too many issues brought up for me to comment on all. I will say this. Not only later this afternoon will this body be looking at increasing the TRT. Mr. Mokrahysky, it's my understanding, for people like me that hear some folks say TRT and some folks say TLT, I think it's the same thing. And I think TRT stands for transient room tax and TLT, transient lodging tax, same thing. My understanding is we are not going to be voting on how those dollars are going to be spent. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, we're just looking at increasing the pot. I also want to point, and by the way, I am one of those that fails to see why we can't and will always be pushing for utilizing a new resource to fulfill what I think Ms. Mickelson responded to as kind of structural balance. And not put all of our eggs in just one basket. And I got to believe there's a way to do both, but we'll get into the nuts and bolts of that. As we get into the nuts and bolts of that, I will point out that some of the testimony we've heard, not just this morning, but earlier, has discussed an indoor facility at the fairgrounds. I think Vice Chair Trieger and I have been very strong and we now have said it's not necessarily confined to the fairgrounds, but any Lane County owned facility. And I want people to know that also this afternoon, we are finally receiving a report from Mr. Orlandini about what the cost, the process, the timeframe might be and I have no idea what he's going to say, but for the county to vacate the Glenwood transfer station and what that would mean. And I believe that's something that many people have been looking forward to hearing and understanding and building into their thing. The only other, so both those are occurring this afternoon. The only other point I would like to make is I want to thank, I mean, so much has been said, but I want to thank Chris McAllister. You know, ultimately, food and shelter and health are many of the priorities that this body's programs embraces. So as we are looking at potentially increasing a significant funding source, and we're looking at the distribution of that source between marketing and actually building new facilities for people to come to. I also want to point out that that Cahoots, which is also in Springfield now, is now being organized. I don't know if this will be successful by the local Springfield unit of the Teamsters. The average Cahoots salary for those people that deal with crisis intervention on the street in some of the most intensive circumstances and have the support of both EPD and SPD and I'm sure other communities. Their average salary is $18 an hour. I don't know if you know, but right now KFC is offering $17.75 an hour for starting. So there's other structural imbalances that we have to deal with as we talk about providing support for our most vulnerable. And unlike many, I believe there is a direct relationship of business thriving, people coming to Lane County and having the resources to provide for our most needy. So I'll be looking forward to the afternoon where we discuss whether we're having an increase in TRT. And I very much look forward to then discussing what allocation possibilities exist. Thank you for the indulgence, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Burney. Commissioner Bozovich.
Thank you. And I want to thank all the speakers who both came in person and online today. I will address most of the issues around the transient lodging tax this afternoon. I do want to make note for some people as to why we're having these discussions in the order they're in. We have changed our collections of transient lodging tax in Lane County. They were collected by the city of Eugene, and they've chosen not to do that anymore. So we are now having to contract with the Oregon Department of Revenue to do so. And in an action we took to do that a couple of weeks ago, we voted as a board, and today in our consent calendar even affirm that agreement. We have to give 90 days notice of any change to the Oregon Department of Revenue. So our deadline for doing so basically is today. And that's why it's on today's calendar, and we're doing this ahead of identifying a project, et cetera, that some people have chosen to talk about. But I just wanted to clarify that calendar issue we are dealing with as a board. And we have to make some kind of decision today, go or no go in the increase. Otherwise, we just lose that position. I also want to thank Vidal Francis for coming, and we'll be hearing from him shortly. I invited him to come, or we had some conversations about him coming, because it is really important for the county to have good communication with ODOT as we look at Beltline improvements, as we look at Highway 126 safety issues, as we look at even things like, if we get rid of the transfer station, how do we improve access to Short Mountain off I-5? They're a big partner for Lane County. And with that, he's also agreed to hold a community meeting with me out in Veneta on Thursday night at 6:30 at the Lane Fire Authority headquarters, who, by the way, merged with Lane Fire District 1 not too long ago. It'll be a second floor training room. It is ADA accessible. There's an elevator, and it's at 88050 Territorial Highway. And that's Thursday, the 29th at 6:30 p.m. And questions, because highway safety has become a big issue, and another fatality last night on a Lane County road. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. I'm looking forward to hearing from Area Manager Francis here in a short while, but I just wanted folks to know about that meeting coming up Thursday night in Veneta.
Thank you, Commissioner Bozovich. I'm going to say this as we enter your last quarter as a county commissioner. We're going to miss the attention to detail that you provide. Pointing out the 90-day notice regarding Oregon Department of Revenue, that's something that may have gone unnoticed if you hadn't brought it forward. Thank you, Commissioner Bozovich. Then I'm going to take a few minutes. Commissioner Burney, you talked about item 15A on today's agenda, which is a discussion of the Lane County transfer site, the solid waste transfer site in Glenwood. And that's item 15A in this afternoon's agenda. We'll be talking about work that's been done so far and just a general update, I believe, Mr. Mokrasky, on what is the time frame, what does it take, and what is the work that's been done so far. We'll hear that this afternoon. And then Ms. Westland, thanks for being here this morning. You mentioned CVALCO, something that not many people hear about or think about. I was on the CVALCO board back in 1995, and I believe that I was on the CVALCO board when we actually hired you. Does that ring a bell to you? I can't hear you saying yes or nodding, but that was a long time ago, and I don't remember everything very, very clear back that long ago. The other thing I wanted to mention is that actually, before I get to that, Mr. McAllister, thanks for being here today. Your voice is always clear, it's always reasonable, and it's always well stated. I wanted to mention to you that you talk about CAHOOTS. CAHOOTS is a blessing that we have in Eugene and Springfield, inside the city limits of Eugene and Springfield. If you live inside the urban growth boundary, but you're not inside the city limits, you don't get the benefit of the CAHOOTS ban. So CAHOOTS is a wonderful service, but it does not even step across the street in River Road if you happen to be outside the Eugene city limits. So that's points out a huge deficit in our response to crisis on the streets. But regarding crisis on the streets, one missing element that we have had, and we know this, and it's been missing for a long, long time, is a crisis response center. And that's a place where first responders, typically police officers, but often it can be CAHOOTS, they have a place to take someone who's suffering from crisis on the streets that is not the emergency room and that's not the jail. Yesterday, we had a round table. Vice Chair Trieger and I attended the round table, and Director Gray was the head of the round table, shall we say. And we talked about the work that is being done in Lane County to build and operate a crisis response center, which will provide both recliners and beds to people who are suffering from crisis on the streets. We'll take a great deal of pressure off of ERs. We heard from Peace Health yesterday that ERs sometimes have people in ER rooms for long periods of time, weeks, months even sometimes. And particularly when youth are held in ER rooms, they're in rooms that are enclosed completely. They're safe, they're secure, but there are no windows. There's no soft presence for them to encounter in an ER. So the Crisis Response Center, as the Crisis and Respite Center, we're calling it the Stabilization Center. The roundtable was attended by more than a handful of our state legislators who all listened very closely to the needs that we have as we plan building and operating the facility. Also, providers were present at the roundtable, and it was a great back and forth. And Commissioner Trieger and I both witnessed what was a really excellent set of questions. And Director Gray, as you're sitting here, I'd like to point out to you that you did a superb job responding to the questions. Your team responded to the questions in a superb way, and we're all very excited about the next steps. So thank you very much for that. With that, any further remonstrances? I have none, so we'll move directly down our agenda. Thank you once again to everybody who showed up today. We do have a public hearing this afternoon, which will be on the ordinance, and the ordinance is regarding shall we levy a 2% additional transient lodging tax and a 2% additional car rental tax. That is there'll be a public hearing this afternoon. So moving down the agenda, we have before us a consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar are listed in detail. If you go to the agenda online and click on view items, all of the items on the consent calendar contain details that the Board of County Commissioners has considered before passing this consent calendar in a single motion. Do I have a motion? Vice Chair.
Chair, I'll move approval of the consent calendar for Tuesday, September 27th, 2022.
Second.
Moved by Vice Chair Trieger and seconded by Commissioner Buck. Discussion to the motion. I'm seeing none. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously. And once again, I'll remind people who are online, and a number of people remain online, if your mic is not silenced, please silence it at this time. We are hearing a little bit of background noise, which is interfering with the live proceedings here at Harris Hall. Thank you for doing that. Moving down the agenda then, we'll move to item 7A, which is an introduction of Mr. Vital T. Francis from the Oregon Department of Transportation, Region 2. Mr. Francis, please step forward. And Ms. Mokrasky, I'm going to introduce Mr. Francis. Actually, he already introduced himself, so you've done my job. But as we know, Mr. Francis, who provided a brief amount of public testimony, which was welcome, is our new regional director for let's see, the Oregon Department of Region 2 Area 5 Manager is your title. Mr. Francis, thank you for being with us this morning. I'll turn the mic over to you.
Well, thank you, Chair, and also thank you, Commissioner Rosenbeck, for allowing me to come here. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to all of you. As I said, my name is Vidal Francis. I've been working with the agency for the last, since 2008 is when I moved here. And I've actually been working in the Lane County area, doing various things and so forth, kind of moved up towards Salem to do a lot of other engineer design type work, but worked my way back into Lane County because I actually live out in Oak Ridge. So I'm a native here since I moved from Florida. And I really appreciate the area, the views, the different recreation activities that you can do out here. It's very good. And what I would like to say is, since Franny's moved on, Franny Brendel, who was my predecessor, if you will, some of the things I've taken note of as far as various different meetings that I've gone to, as far as what is missing or what is needed from the agency on ODOT side. And one of the things that I've heard is more partnership. And that's one of the things that I really want to try to stress, or at least push forward, more partnership with the various communities that are out there, to be a team player, if you will, with not only the projects that we have going, but listening to the voice of those communities that have various needs and so forth, and from a transportation standpoint, and try to fulfill those as best we can from our perspective. Also want to be more inclusive. That means that the outreach portion of, as an agency, we impact a lot of people. I mean, to go from here to there, for the most part, you're going to land somewhere either on a sidewalk or a road of some sort to be able to get to that place. And so we want to do a bigger job at communicating to our people. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here too, is to communicate to you too as well. Two of the things that's been a priority for the agency, like the commissioner mentioned earlier, one of them is US 126 Eugene to Bonita project. Again, that's still kind of in the conceptual phase as we're moving forward, trying to get the necessary things in place so that we could start to make some action, if you will. And again, like was mentioned earlier, the 29th at 6:30, we plan on being out there and take on questions. I hope to be able to give everyone at least a conceptual view of what we plan on doing, who we plan on impacting as far as what's needed out there. And also, like was mentioned earlier, the safety aspects of that route right there from Bonita to Eugene. Again, that's one of the bigger things that the agency is trying to do, because to be honest with you, death is not acceptable in any case. Okay, and so safety is paramount. We are the we are the communities that we live in. And so it's important that we try to address those needs that are vitally important, not only for us, but also for our families, our loved ones, and so forth. So again, on the 29th, we plan on doing a little presentation on the US 126 to Bonita project. And the other priority that we've had been going on, the agency-wide, at least in Lane County, if you will, is the Beltline, Delta Beltline interchange, if you will, or moving towards River Road. I did last week had a meeting with the, if I'm saying this right, the neighborhood, Northeast Neighborhood Group. I think that's the correct name. And it was very welcoming, very good opportunity for the agency to get there and speak to that group on what the progress has been on the Beltline there. And as I mentioned to them, that project there has multiple phases that's going on. And in those multiple phases, at least what we're projecting out, and the end goal, if you will, is to get the bridge that's going over to the Willamette there widened so that we can support 3 lanes of traffic going through there. That's the end game. But again, we've got to take those in incremental steps as we move forward. And the next incremental step is to finish the widening over Beltline that's on Delta. If you know right now, there's pretty much a narrow bridge on Delta that goes over the Beltline there, and we need to widen that out to support multiple lanes of traffic. And once that widening is completed, then we're able to move forward on the multiple phases that need to be done for that intersection. And if you, I don't know if you remember, or if you recall, but there's a lot of safety improvements, if you will, that we had to do with that intersection, and particularly to increase, to relieve the congestion that's been happening. I think most of us know right now, once you're coming up from I-5 and you're heading down Beltline, as soon as you get up to about Delta, it starts to back up depending on the time of day that you are. And consequently, there was a couple of weaving movements, if you will, from people coming on, people coming off, and we're trying to change or adjust those so that we could make the highway travel or commute more acceptable. So as of today, we do have some funding to continue the design work on Beltline, and we're going to be putting a team together to look at designing the widening of the bridge that goes over Beltline, which is on Delta. And I'm anticipating that's, design work takes some time to go through, and I'm anticipating about a good 12, 18 months, if you will, of design work within that area to get that project moving forward. The funding has not yet fully been identified. I am looking at trying to get all the funding to get the construction work done. And I'm hoping by the time the design is done, we'll be able to start getting some more construction work on the ground to continue the improvements along Beltline. Other work that has been going on in the area, and I'm going to talk now on some general construction work that's been going on, the agency has been doing out towards Oak Ridge, Highway 58, milepost 70. We have some paving work that's been going out through there. But which everyone knows here, since the fires have happened, that work has been delayed. But I believe construction crews are back out there now, continuing the construction work out on from the tunnel, if you will, Salt Creek Tunnel, all the way to milepost 70. We also have some construction work going on just south, I believe, of Junction City on Highway 99, First Avenue to Enid Road. You probably noticed over the couple of months, been quite a bit of paving work going on right there. To date, to my understanding, talking to my construction manager, that the paving portion has already been done, and now they're doing things like guardrails, maybe some striping activities and so forth. And I expect for that to continue on probably for the next 2 or 3 weeks, if you will, until that project is closed down towards the middle or end of December. Moving on to Cottage Grove, we do have a new project that's going to be starting. This is the I-5 connector over the Pacific Railroad, which is kind of just in the middle of Cottage Grove, if you will. On that bridge itself, we're doing some improvements to strengthen, if you will, the abutments out there. That project has just started out. They haven't even done the pre-construction meeting on that one yet, but it's soon to kick off, and there will be some activity out there. As well, in Cottage Grove, you probably noticed if you've been riding through the area there on Oregon 99, there's quite a bit of drainage activity that's going on. The contractor is out there kind of putting in some new drainage systems and also ADA work that or sidewalk improvements or ramp work, if you will, that's going on through there as well. That work will continue on through the rest of this year as well as going into next year. So there will be some impacts as that work progresses. One other project I do want to mention too is we do have work that's actually on Beltline right now that's kind of speckled throughout where we're from Coburg Road all the way down to Green Hill Road. We're doing some median barrier that's being replaced. There's some older sections out there that need to be replaced. There is one bridge that's over the northwest, I believe, expressway that needs a new surface on it. That work is going to be continuing. We also have on I-105, not too far from here, we're putting in a new sign bridge, if you will, or VMS board, if you will, for that project. And they just done the foundations for those last week before last, if I recall. Apart from that, any questions? Be happy to take on.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Francis, for being here. Boy, great list of projects. I'm acutely aware of many of them, including the Delta Highway Randy Pape interchange. At least 2 times a day, most days. I'm there, and it's a lot better than it was 2 years ago. But improvements are in order. Commissioner Bozievich.
Thank you. So yeah, I was in the backup to get over the Willamette River this morning myself, as usual. It always slows down there. And I'm looking forward to eventually resolving some of those capacity issues. One of which is that there's a lot of local traffic that uses a state highway to cross the road, and hopefully the collector bridge that will connect Green Acres to Division Avenue and River Road, and take some of that local traffic off of Beltline and prevent a lot of the weaving movement of people getting off and then getting on and right back off. Will resolve a lot of that traffic issue. So you covered a lot of projects, but I'm going to ask about a couple things, or just put them in your mind to think about. Coburg, I know, has been looking at improvements to their interchange, and it's important to their economic development plans. And they have some industrial zone lands there on the east side of I-5 that are probably some of our own larger track industrial zone lands in Lane County for economic development. So we need to kind of keep a little bit of, I know I think they have an interchange here, access management plan done for that already. So just kind of something to put in the back of your mind. The secondary one I already mentioned, which is Dillard Access Road and the access to Short Mountain, and the ability to reach Short Mountain from both directions without having to take 58 and use local roads to get to Short Mountain is going to be very important in making sure that our haulers don't end up with a huge expense when we do move the transfer station from Glenwood out to Short Mountain, and along with that, the possibility of doing a full recycling center there. So that interchange is going to be very important. And then, of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention 30th Avenue also in that interchange improvements. Just my time as a Lane Community College board member back in the 2000s, that interchange is way overwhelmed during the early part of a session that, when everybody's coming, when all the students are showing up on campus at LCC, that is nearly impossible to get on and off. So definitely needs some capacity, or at least some improvements there. So that just kind of couple interchanges to put in your mind that weren't mentioned in your comments.
So it's not changed then since I was an LCC student in 1973 and 74. Okay, backed up onto the freeway.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a little bit, and thank you for those. Going back to the city of Coburg, that interchange, as a matter of fact, I had a meeting with Mayor Smith, yeah, Ray Smith, if you will, last week. And one of the things that we are looking at least from an agency perspective, is seeing what kind of grant fundings we can do to quote unquote improve that intersection right there. And you're right, when you look at that little area right there, you've got that industrial area on one side, also have even some of the they actually even building in bike facilities, if you will, on some of the roads going into the residential area that's behind that industrial area and so forth. And then on the other side of the bridge there, on the other side of the highway, you have another group of folks, if you will. You've got that RV park and so forth, and you got quite a few folks that actually use that facility to visit the area, to come to the area and so forth. And so when you have that bridge right there, that really, in my view, not necessarily support the pedestrians that come across and so forth. Again, those are causes for concern that we could try to look in. And I had that conversation with the mayor. And again, we are working with him and my staff. Some of my project managers are actually working with him to see what we can do to try to make things come to fruition. But again, as you probably already know, you mentioned you've been there for quite a long time. things do take time to get where they need to get. And I also want to mention about the 30th Avenue intersection there. I know that there's been some discussions with our maintenance folks, in particular with, I think that would be to the north. There's the very next on-ramp or entrance onto I-5 has been some safety problems that has been occurring, and trying to look at that whole intersection, if you will, to make it appropriate both for whatever growth that's happening and whatever needs that could happen, and to prevent any safety issues and so forth is something that we are looking at. But again, like we mentioned earlier, time. Thank you for the comments. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. And, it's good to hear that Ray Smith is continuing his good work after his many years as the building hardware department manager at Jerry's, where he provided excellent customer service. Still doing it, I hear. I'm glad to hear that. I just received an alert that we all want to hear. The black or northern line between Charing Cross and Leicester Square is experiencing serious delays. I better turn my tube map off. I don't need that anymore. So can you do anything about that?
No, I'm not familiar.
That's the London Underground. Well, Mr. Francis, I think next time we invite you, we'll have a lot more time. I'm going to continue with our discussion right now. Commissioner Burney.
Thank you very much. You may not, nice to meet you, sir. And Franny to Mr. Francis. Huh? You may not know the answer to this, but I'm curious. About a year and a half, I had the honor of being the chair of the MPC, the Metropolitan Planning Commission, which I presume you're now sitting on. We had a presentation by people at ODOT, I don't remember the names, on the electrification of Oregon state highways and roads. And I had the opportunity to speak with her after that. And I've heard nothing since. I was wondering if you could give us, and if you can't, perhaps at some point in the future, an update on where the heck that is and what exactly that means to ODOT.
I hate telling people this. I'll get back to you, but
I've been told it many a time.
I know that at our next Lane Act meeting, which is I believe it's October 12th, Travis Brower will come speak to us about EVs and let's just say the funding mechanism around how the agency supported with the EVs that are going to be, let's say, contributing towards the cost of maintaining our roads and so forth. So that may be at least a side topic, if you will, to touch up on that. But I'd like to get back with you on the state of electrification on our highways.
That would be great. Also, in the audience now is Mr. Adams, and Mr. Adams is, he's a good person to meet. He oversees, among other things, the county's climate action plan, and there's an intersection there that I think is pretty significant. So that'd be great. Thank you very much, sir. It's great to meet you.
Thank you for meeting it as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chair Trieger.
Thank you, Chair. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate hearing the update. I just want to flag for anyone watching, since we talked about the 30th Avenue, and I really appreciate your opening and emphasis on 0 deaths being a goal on our roads. So there is a public hearing on our active transportation plan for 30th Avenue with the Lane County Transportation Advisory Committee tomorrow evening at 5:30. There is remote access to that. And just for anyone watching who's especially focused on safety and 30th Avenue and active transit, to tune into that tomorrow evening. I'm sure the log-on information is on our website, on the transportation section of the website. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Buck.
I appreciate you having you here today too. We have met over Zoom quite a bit from the Lane Act and the MPC meetings. And now we have the pleasure in Lane County to have 2 OTC members in our area, which we really have not had that kind of opportunity. I'm not sure if we ever have really to have 2 within the same county representing us at the OTC level. And so I'm hoping that we can take advantage of that as a county and a board. I know you will as our area representative, and we haven't had a chance to have either of them really come to the Lane Act or the MPC to chat yet. That will be a great opportunity when you're able to do that. But I just wanted to say thank you for coming and look forward to working with you more on transit and related issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And, Senator Lee Byer yesterday mentioned how excited he is to begin his new work.
Yeah.
As I said, you're ready to retire? I said, oh, no way. So any further discussion? Mr. Francis, thank you very much. Anything else you'd like to add?
That's it. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And hopefully I'll be able to come back another time and bring some more important stuff, relevant information to this body.
I mistakenly allocated 10 minutes to this item. We could have taken 2 hours easily because I'd like to talk about some of this stuff right now myself, but we'll hear from you a lot. Look forward to our years together working. Yes. Thank you very much. Then we'll move down our agenda to item 8A, which is an order 22092705, in the matter of approving 3 contracts and delegating authority to the county administrator to sign the approved actions. And today, Mr. Mokrański, I believe we have Director Gray. I'll turn it over to you.
We do. Thank you. Go ahead, Eve.
Thank you. So these are 3 new contracts, which is why they are here as a regular item. I would like to draw your attention to the Oregon Health Authority investment in behavioral health housing. That is $6.9 million that has been allocated to our county that we'll be utilizing for additional residential facilities to address the acute behavioral health needs in our community. So very excited, Dr. Guichot. He is working on contracts related to that, and we will have more information to update you on as those RFP processes are completed. The other pieces here, Navigation Center contract with the city of Eugene, or IGA with the city of Eugene. Of course, the city has agreed to bear some financial responsibility for the Navigation Center along with us, and this is the codification of that. And then the final one, MetaSource for staffing of our temporary vaccine clinic at Valley River Center. This is paid for through our ARPA funds that went to the federally qualified health center.
Perfect. And before I spare any discussion of the motion, I attended the clinic at the Valley River Center, and very efficient, very well run.
Great.
My commendation. Pass it through to them, please. Discussion, questions, Vice Chair Trieger.
Just prepared with the motions.
Very good. Then I'll mention this to anybody who's watching online. If you click on View Materials, you'll see the details of each of these contracts that are up for a single motion today. Vice Chair Trieger.
Chair, I move approval of Order 22-09-27-05 in the matter of approving 3 contracts, delegating authority to the county administrator to sign the approved actions.
Second. Moved by Vice Chair Trieger and seconded by Commissioner Burney. Any discussion to the motion? I'm seeing none. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously, and we're going to move along to item 8B. And Commissioner Buck, I'm going to call upon you for a declaration.
Thank you, Chair. This particular item involves St. Vincent de Paul of Lane County. So I'm going to declare an actual conflict of interest since I'm related to the Executive Director of St. Vincent de Paul. I'll head out to the hallway, and if somebody could call me back when you're done, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Do I have to recuse because I have tremendous respect for him? No, I'm going to stay around. Thank you. Then Director Gray, we have before us Order 2209-2706 in the matter of approving 1 amendment, delegating authority to the county administrator to sign the approved actions. Director.
This is just, as you said, an amendment to an existing contract. So happy to entertain any questions. It is around the Don-to-Don site.
A lot to say about that, but I believe for this, for the order of this agenda, any discussion? I have none. I see none. Do I have a motion?
Chair, I'll move approval of Order 22-09-27-06 as stated.
Second. Moved by Vice Chair Trieger and seconded by Commissioner Burney. Discussion to the motion? I see none. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Passes 4-0 with Commissioner Buck recused. Excused, recused. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Gray. Then we'll move along as Commissioner Buck rejoins us to item 9A, which is an ordinance. First reading and second reading and public hearing on ordinance number PA 1386 in the matter of amending the Lane County Rural Comprehensive Plan to amend the Lane County Transportation System Plan and adopting a savings and severability clause. Mr. Mokryski.
Thank you, Chair. It looks like we have Sasha Vartanian and Kevin Gilbride joining us virtually. So Sasha, do you want to introduce this item?
I will actually hand it off to Kevin Gilbride. Becky Taylor is the staff lead on this item, and unfortunately she has fallen ill, but you are in great hands with Kevin.
Thanks, Sasha. And thank you, Chair, and good morning, Commissioners. My name is Kevin Gilbride. I'm the staff planner standing in for Becky Taylor. And this is the first reading for ordinance number PA 1386, also identified as Land Management Division File number 509-PA22-059191. This is an amendment to the Rural Comprehensive Plan to amend the Transportation System Plan to adopt a bicycle master plan. These amendments were prompted by the 2017 adopted Lane County Transportation System Plan amendments, which included policies requiring the development and adoption of a bicycle master plan, policy 7A, and to prioritize improved road surfacing for bicycling on the adopted bicycle network, which was policy 10B. Both policies 7A and 10B are amended by this ordinance to reflect the adoption of the new bicycle master plan. The ordinance also includes amendments to the roads project list that outlines new and revised projects focused on bicycle infrastructure, and corrections to the functional classification of two county roads, Houston Road north of Veneta and Van Doyne Road northeast of Coburg and east of I-5. On July 19th, 2022, a public hearing with the Lane County Planning Commission was held regarding this project. And on that same date, the commission deliberated on the topic and motioned to forward a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners to adopt the proposed amendments. And the item before you today is a first reading with a request that the board set the second reading and public hearing for October 11th, 2022, time certain at 1:30 p.m. And at that time, staff will provide a more comprehensive staff report on the project, and there will be an opportunity for public comment. Becky Taylor from Transportation Planning is the primary staff for this item, but I'm available now to answer any questions if there are any. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbride. Then at this point, I'll turn it over to questions from the Board of Commissioners. But first, Mr. Mokryski, a question for you. Did you know that Becky Taylor 5 years ago was named the outstanding public employee for Lane County? Did you know that?
I've heard that, yes.
I thought you might have heard it before. Thank you.
She still does.
Then discussion to the item. Questions, I see none. Then I'll, I'm sorry, Commissioner Burney. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I feel like a goose in the back here. Not a goose, but goose, no, never mind.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. We've received from some inquiry about the order of operations and funding to implement the plan not being in place before we adopt the plan. I just wondered if anybody wanted to speak to that today or save that for another time.
I can take that. It is in the same realm as how we treat our transportation system plan projects. We are looking out 20 years and we have a long list of project needs identified, and we do not always have funding identified for those needs.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any further questions for staff? I'm seeing none, then I'll call for a motion, please. Vice Chair.
Chair, I'll move, let's see, I will move ordinance number PA 1386 in the matter of amending the Lane County Rural Comprehensive Plan to amend the Lane County Transportation System Plan and adopting a savings and severability clause and setting a second reading and public hearing for October 11th, 2022 with a 1:30 p.m. time certain.
Moved by Vice Chair Trieger and seconded by Commissioner Buck. That is the first reading and setting of the second reading and public hearing. Any discussion to the motion? I am seeing none. I'll call. Oh, that's not for this. It's not passage of the ordinance. So with that, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sasha and Kevin, for being here today. Next time, we'll see you in person, perhaps. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Then we'll move along to Order 22-0927-07 in the matter of appointing an at-large member to the Lane County Planning Commission. And today, Ms. McCarthy, I believe Ms. Surslev is here with us, and I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, go ahead, Rachel.
Thank you, and thank you, Chair Farr, and good morning, Commissioners. I'm Rachel Surslev, Staff Planner, and I'm here before you for the appointment of one Planning Commissioner to the Lane County Planning Commission. And on August 2nd, 2022, the board appointed a subcommittee consisting of Commissioner Buck and Commissioner Trieger to conduct interviews to review candidates for a vacant position on the Lane County Planning Commission. Of the 5 candidates that were interviewed, Jeffrey Choate was selected as the finalist, and the subcommittee recommends that the board appoint them to the Planning Commission. And so staff is here before you with a board order to appoint Mr. Choate to the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Ms. Surslev. And I'll mention again that anybody watching online can click on view items, get the entire board order, the board order and board item. Discussion, any questions for staff? Is there anyone in the audience we need to introduce perhaps? No? Okay. Mr. Choate, welcome and congratulations ahead of time, but we're going to call for the vote right now. Do I have a motion?
I'll move approval of Order 22-09-27-07 as presented.
I'll second.
Moved by Commissioner Buck and seconded by Vice Chair Trieger. Order number 20, I've lost my order number, whatever you said. Discussion to the motion. Vice Chair, excuse me, Commissioner Bozievich.
Thank you. So I'm going to abstain on this vote, partially in protest to the process of how we've been appointing these committee members over the last several years. I've expressed my concerns prior to this. And I just want to say, I just feel that the rural commissioners should be the ones involved. And I've kind of been disenfranchised from the process, and my voice has been ignored in the past. So I'm just going to abstain. No issue there. It's about process.
Thank you, Commissioner. Further discussion to the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0 with Commissioner Bozievich abstained. Thank you, Ms. Surslev.
Thank you.
And congratulations now, Mr. Choate. I look forward to working with you. Then we'll move down the agenda. Let's see. To item 10A, which is County Council announcements. And I've ascertained with Mr. Dingle, Mr. McCarthy, we have no announcements from County Council today. So we'll move along to County Administration. And we have order, 11A is in order again, order 22-09-2708 in the matter of approving project awards under Title III of the Secure Rural Schools and Community Self-Development Program under Public Law 116-94, initiating projects and obligating funds. And Mr. Mokrasky, again, today, I believe we have Manager Moody with us. I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, thanks, Christine Moody.
Thank you, Chair. So as mentioned, this is Title III funding of the Secure Rural Schools. As detailed in the packet, this is actually not the most recent extension of that legislation. It's the prior one. We refer to it as SRS 2020. So these funds need to be obligated in projects initiated by September 30th of this year. That's why we're bringing it forward to you. And the reason we haven't brought it to you before is because we already had allocated funding for the time period up until now. So we have gotten so that we're able to allocate these funds for future years. So it gives us more time for planning. So there was a required 45-day notice to receive comments and other potential projects that meet the legislation. We received 4 projects that are detailed in the packet for you. The one that is different for the board is the Community Wildfire Plan. And we might have Patience Winningham online. She was going to try and call in case there were questions. But this is the first time you're seeing that project come forward. And so if there's any questions, she's available there. There were more applications than funding for this one. So there is a slight shortage of about 138,000 as recommended in the packet. just based on the years that are being funded, we would recommend the Community Wildfire Protection Plan project. Part of that we prioritize the next time we come to you. So that would be the one that's slightly shorted. But we're talking about the year, let's see, 23, 24. That would be shorted. So we have plenty of time to come back to you and make sure that that project is held whole. So with that, any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Moody. I see that Ms. Winningham is here with us. Welcome to Harris Hall. It's a comfortable 69 degrees in here. The clock on the wall is accurate and the air is clear. Ms. Winningham. Anything to say?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I actually have a little bit of a cold I'm recovering from, so you'll probably appreciate that I'm not in the room with you today. In following up to Ms. Moody's presentation to Title III, I would say that she is correct. The Community Wildfire Protection Plan effort application for Title III funds is different. It is going to take advantage of these funds in coordinating the work of that Community Wildfire Protection Plan that the board and Fire Defense Board, as well as Oregon Department of Forestry, approved in August of 2020. So just a few days before the holiday farm fire. There are a lot of action items in that plan, and that plan comes with a lot of work with limited staff availability to really accomplish those action items. So we applied for funds through the Title III opportunity to be able to leverage some of those dollars to get some of those action item ticked off. So I look forward to the work. We'll be bringing the CWPP plan back to the board next year for a review and an update. Probably next August after the natural hazard mitigation plan.
Thank you, Ms. Winningham. I'll turn it over to the board. Any questions or comments? Commissioner Bozievich.
Quick question for Ms. Moody. You mentioned this was the prior allocation. So this is not the one that moved us back to 2017 levels?
Correct.
So in the next allocation, we'll see 2007. So that should be an increase. We may be able to close that gap at future.
Right. It will be an increase of the annual amounts, and it was a longer term. So the most recent one was for 3 years. So there will be more funding to allocate the next time we come forward to you for sure.
Just so the board understands that there will be some flexibility based on that.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Commissioner. Further questions or comments? I'm seeing none. Then I'll call for motion. Vice Chair Trieger, are you raising your hand?
I was pointing at Commissioner Beck, but it looks like Commissioner Bozievich. Everybody wants to make a motion.
Who would like to make a motion? I'm going to close my eyes, just say it out
Who
loud.
hasn't made a motion yet? Go for it.
Yeah.
Commissioner,
So I'll move approval of Order 2209-2708 in a matter of approving project awards under Title III of the Secure Rural Schools and Community Self-Determination Program under Public Law 116-94, initiating projects and obligating funds.
Second. Moved by Commissioner Bozievich, seconded by Commissioner Burney. I'm going to say this, Mr. Mokrice. When I was in the House Revenue Committee, Lane Chetterley was the chair, and we'd all struggle to make motions, and he would judiciously take turns. So we don't do that here. So whoever gets their hands up first gets to make the motion. So it is moved by Commissioner Bozievich, seconded by Commissioner Burney. Discussion to the motion? I see none. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously. Excellent. Then Mr. Mokrice, do you have any announcements today?
I do have two quick ones. First, Mike Finch, our communication officer, is here. And we're going to do an update on broadband access. I want to first just plug at your next board meeting on October 11th, we're going to have Dina Dawson, our new county clerk and elections official, here to provide an update because the board has not yet met Dina. She's comes to us as formerly the director of elections at the city of Denver, and then ran the elections process in Douglas County, Nevada. We sort of missed each other during that time, but have worked with similar colleagues, and she came highly recommended and she has been on board for a couple months now. So we're excited to introduce you to her, and you'll get an elections update, the work that she's been working on, and then this particular election. So I just want to plant that seed. So we'll do that for October 11th. Right now, though, invited Mike Finch to be with us this morning just for a quick update, again, to talk about broadband access, what you all commissioners can do to help us promote what we would like to see from our community, which is an opportunity to really identify where we have good and not so good broadband access currently and how we can expand that. So Mike?
Yeah. Good morning, commissioners. Thank you for having me here. FasterInternetOregon.org. That's what I'm here to help spread the word on today with you and hopefully with our community or all across all of Oregon to come take the test and get on the map. So I brought a demo with me today so I can bring this site up where all Oregonians can go to either take the test at home or wherever they work or play and test their broadband, or to report that they don't have internet connectivity. So if you give me a moment, I'll just bring it up on the screen here.
Know how to work this technology, Mike?
You know, it gets more and more interesting every year, but yes.
If the internet's
figure it
fast
out.
enough, he'll be able to load the presentation.
So just going out here to any browser, we can go ahead and type in www.fasterinternet.org.
Works on Safari, by the way.
Pardon?
Works on Safari.
Excellent. Hopefully works everywhere you try it. So going out to the website, it's as easy as clicking on Take My Test. So click the button. Down here, it will bring up just a couple checkboxes. I have internet access at my home, hopefully, and you can take the test. But if you do not have internet access, you can tell us that too by going to a place where you can get internet and filling out that checkbox and putting your address on the map. But I will take the test for us today. I have internet access. If you click on that box, it will bring up your data policy and disclaimer. I encourage you to read those. They do work hard to aggregate the data and protect your information while you're taking this test. You can list the price you pay. So not only do we want to know how fast your speeds are, but how much are you paying? Are you paying a reasonable and affordable cost to get that service? And then you can enter your address. I will go ahead and take the test here.
You just answered a question. Is it case sensitive? No.
Shouldn't be.
Looks awfully familiar to Speed Up America.
So it is powered by Speed Up America. Lane County, Onward Eugene, Speed Up America, many partners have come together to sponsor and put this test together. So it is powered by Speed Up America, and that is something that is available across the US, hence the addresses are US wide. So I fill in our address, take the test. It will take a few moments to test your download and upload speeds. And it's as simple as that. It will put you on the map, get your data point registered. In a moment, I'll pull up that map so you can see what we've collected so far. As of right now, we've collected about 5,000 data points across Oregon. We, across the next couple months, would like that to get that up to about 100,000 data points, 10% of the households in our state, so that we can get that data in the hands of decision makers so they can help bring affordable, accessible broadband to everyone across our state. So our test completed. You can see we're actually getting some very good speeds here. So once we've taken the test, we can go down and view the map. So if you go to that site, you can open the map and it will bring it up and show how we're doing. So as of this, you can see we have about 5,000 tests. So let's get the word out. Let's help everybody take this test and get that data available to us. We have a lot of funding coming into our state. We'd love to get that in the hands of organizations that can help get broadband available to everybody. Any questions I can answer?
Can you zoom on Lane County?
I will do my best.
Seen a lot of red dots in Lane County.
A lot of red dots.
How is this different than Speed Up America?
It is powered by Speed Up America. What's different is that we are using the crowdsourced data collectors from an organization that helping put that into a mapping application and making that data available.
Excellent. And before I call you Commissioner Krieger, I'm going to remember, Mike, back in the 90s, the TV commercials I remember are, it's like, what was it? Frogs and Budweiser and polar bears and Coca-Cola and the information superhighway. Is that what this is?
Well, we're still building that highway.
Still building the highway. Yes. I love it. I had no clue what it was when those commercials run. Vice Chair Trieger.
Thank you. Thanks for this. Two quick questions. Do you know how many of the 5,000 data points have been collected so far in Lane County? And it's a little hard to tell from here, but because you said that's a statewide number.
Yeah, it's a statewide number, a small fraction. So I think we're still in the hundreds. So we'd love
But you will have the ability to break out by county eventually for your.
Yeah, so within this tool, that crowdsourced data can be sliced and diced. This tool actually was sponsored by Broadband Action Teams. There are 10 across the state of Oregon that we participate in. Ours is our region. We have Lynn, Benton, Lincoln, and Lane County that form our Broadband Action Team for our area that help put this together. And they are all able to access this data and help connect with our Oregon Broadband Office and use it across the state.
And then my other question regarding where there's the place for people to put in how much they're paying for their internet access. Do you have a recommendation for people who do that through bundling with other services, how they enter that number?
That is actually a great question. I guess you would just have to do your best educated guess as to how that factors in.
So if you have 3 services, just put a third of that cost.
Yeah, or perhaps you can get the individualized price and kind of assess what your additional services would be.
That way.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Almost all of us.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an opportunity to shift it where there's a drop down that you can say whether you have solely internet or it's bundled, something to help. Because otherwise that is really important information from an access and equity perspective of what people are having to pay and where. But I worry that we're not collecting the most useful data if we can't tell the difference.
Yep. Thank you. I'll take that feedback back as well.
Excellent. So should I do it in my Ford as well as at my home, or never mind?
Everywhere you can do it.
Everywhere I can do it. Okay, good. Commissioner Burney.
Thank you. Building on Commissioner Trieger's question. So if you want commissioners to truly help spread this, is there going to be something that either on a weekly or a monthly, but a regular basis is a very simple 1 or 2 sentence explanation with either a link or a map current, Lane County current, so that we can, so that we can use that, easily forward it to mailing lists, to organizations that we have relationships with in our districts, et cetera. I mean, how do you see us helping you with this? Because that's how you started the presentation.
Yeah. I would say the best way you can help is, of course, leveraging your social media presence as much as possible, our PIO, and I guess just connecting this message to, all of your partners and organizations you work with so they can get the word out. I do know there's an effort focused right now with school districts, back to school, back to broadband, that they are partnering with school districts as well to help get the information out. And they are anticipating testing rates to go up quite a bit as part of that effort and outreach as well.
Yeah, testing rates are pretty bad right now. That's a whole other subject. But again, do you have something that could be real time, how we're doing that as we do that, people can look at and use that to encourage more people to participate?
I can
for Lane County,
make sure that we put that package together so you have it in hands.
I think that'd be helpful. Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner. Further discussion? Vice Chair Buck. Commissioner Buck. Oh, none. Okay. Well, don't look at me then. Okay.
Yeah, Vice Chair, no, Commissioner.
She's looking at me. Any further discussion? Thank you, Ms. Finch.
Thank you all for your time.
Ms. Finch, thanks again for the, there were a lot of people crawling around this building on Friday. Did that go pretty well?
It was a great event. So yes, I think you're referring to as our technology day. Yeah, we had over 100 people come visit our area, take the tour, and it was just a wonderful time and great to see faces again. And thank you again to our public health and all those that work to make that possible to come together. So thanks, Mike, that's all I have.
That's everything. Then we'll move along to item 12, which is executive session. We do today have a need for executive session. Is there any further business of the board before we go into executive session? Then at the sound of my gavel, we'll be entering into executive session. We'll convene in executive session in the Board of Commissioners conference room at 5 minutes. Am I missing something here?
I think we're sorry.
Sorry.
we were trying to do in person tomorrow if you're available. We're gonna do hybrid,
Yes, but today is remote.
but I think today is remote.
Yeah. Ms. Jones, are we correct in that?
That is correct. Today is fully remote. Tomorrow will be a hybrid for those who want to be in the BCC as well as remote.
And where was I? Oh, yes. So we'll reconvene in remote executive session in the Board of Commissioners conference room at, let's say, 10 minutes till 11. And that clock on the wall is accurate, as are our computer clocks. So I'll read us into executive session. At the sound of my gavel, we will be in executive session. We will return in regular session in Harris Hall live at 1:30. The Board of County Commissioners will meet in executive session to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations. This executive session is held pursuant to ORS 192-.662D, which allows the Board of Commissioners to meet in executive session for the purposes listed. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision will be made in executive session. We reserve the right to come back out into public session should the need arise.
Hey, Chair, I'm going to do my best. I might be late.